Hi, welcome back everyone to the show, the Open Conversations podcast, where we encourage career advancement, entrepreneurship, and we share practical tips and strategies for personal and professional growth. Today, I have with me another guest, and of course, I have Miss Ashley Haseotes. Okay, and of course, we all suffer from, some level of trauma. I know I do, whether that be pain from losing a loved one, whether it be stuff that we're going through. And so, of course, that's some stuff that we all have that we collectively share. And so, Ashley is here with us today. Of course, let me say a little bit about her, and then, of course, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So Ashley is an intuitive energy healer and, of course, a Chakra Center certified meditation coach, as well as the author of The Unspoken. And, of course, we're going to talk a bit about that. And, of course, Ashley is bringing her personal and professional experience as a way to help you work through some difficult experiences or give you some tools or strategies to work through difficult experiences so that you can feel unstuck and as a way to maybe undergo or help shift into some major life changes, right? Ashley, welcome to the show. And go ahead and tell everyone about yourself.
Yeah, so by the way, you did an awesome intro. We could just drop the mic. I think we're done. It was so perfect, so thank you. Listen, I'm just like a mom, like everybody else, a wife, and I've gone through stuff. We've all gone through stuff, My stuff started when I was little, when I was young, but lots of people don't have that experience. Some of it is adult stuff.
Right.
But either way, you are 1,000% right. We all share that experience of suffering on some level.
Right.
So I wrote a book during lockdown. So that was my lockdown gift.
Right. Everyone probably ended up doing something during lockdown, right?
Yep, especially the entrepreneurs who are listening.
Right.
Yeah, we all kind of did something big in lockdown. I happened to write a book. So I've been a Reiki master, healer, and meditation coach now for almost 10 years. And that kind of really, I think this happens to a lot of healers, but I really got into meditation and healing because I was looking to heal myself.
Right. And isn't that the best way to be of service to one, finding a solution to something that we're going through, because then we understand it a bit more. Okay. And let's just get out the gates and talk a bit about the book and why did you decide to write that? And not only that, the title itself, The Unspoken. I love that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thanks. That was one of like 20 working titles. So we could talk about that later. But yeah, so the book, I actually never planned on writing a book.
Right.
Everyone had been telling me for a really long time, you should write a book. And it just never resonated with me. Honestly, and this is really common for trauma survivors, that I didn't feel like my story was any more important than anybody else's story. And right. I also didn't think that what I went through was significant enough to share.
Right.
So I think we all kind of do that, right? Like we downplay, like, oh my God, people have it so much worse.
Right, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Okay.
So, but I ended up spiraling out of control. I ended up with chronic pain in the form of migraines and vertigo, and it left me bedridden. It left me unable to run the charity that I had started after my firstborn had cancer when he was a baby, and subsequently I started a nonprofit here in Boston to be able to help other families through their journal of financial support, emotional support, and I couldn't work. I couldn't take care of my children. I wasn't being a wife. I was literally in bed 24/7. And so I slowly found my way back to health. And one of the ways that I did that was by working through my chronic pain with a pain coach.
Right.
So I was having this therapy session and I just started to dump everything on, just like, you do in all the other therapy sessions you've ever had. And so anyway, so she paused me and she said, that story is important and we're going to get to it, but I want to know how you're feeling right now.
Right.
And I totally fell apart. But after the therapy session, I kind of just had this desire to catalog my life because I'd never done it before. So I started cataloging, and then 3 months later, I wrote 85,000 words.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, yeah. So I thought, I think I wrote a book, and so it kind of all spiraled from there.
Okay, cool. Sounds
Yeah.
familiar. I know for a while I tried to write one and I was like, oh, I don't think anyone want to read my story. And then
Right.
one day, I don't remember what happened, and I sat down and in 2 days I was like, okay, it's done. So
Yeah.
I totally connect with that. And that's the thing, especially as women, we have a tendency of doubting ourselves. We have a tendency of looking at our flaws and our limitations. And then as a result, we undersell ourselves or undervalue what we have to offer because we think, okay, no one's going to buy, no one's going to do this, no one's going to do that. And we have so much to offer. So
Hmm.
that is so awesome, you sharing that. Okay, so I know, of course, as a mom, this part, and I'm like, how did she do it? Thinking about what if, my child, and I have a little one and she's asthmatic, and that alone drives me crazy. What was that like? I mean, 7 months old, being told that your son, was died, has cancer. Talk a little
Hmm.
bit about that if you don't mind. Share as much as you're comfortable with.
Of
How,
course.
how was that situation and how did you handle it?
It was a complete surprise. Actually, I say it was a complete surprise, but it actually wasn't because so I was in the mortgage business for a really long time.
Okay.
And when I got married, my husband really wanted me to stay home. Wasn't really my thing to stay home. And so anyway, we agreed that I would get into philanthropy. And at
Right.
that time, I was like 30 years old. I'm like, what the heck is philanthropy? Anyway, so we started having we had this event for St. Jude at our house.
Right.
And we were in, right? We're watching the videos, we're like crying, everyone's crying. We're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do this every year. We have to do this. And then 2 months later, Nicoles got diagnosed with cancer. So talk about the universe.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
So I kind of knew when he started to become unwell and every day was getting worse,
Right.
there was a little voice in my head that was like, this is cancer. This is cancer. This is cancer.
Right.
And of course, everybody thought I was crazy. Like my family thought I was crazy. Like, you're just a first time mom,
Right.
that's not happening, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so it happened in the emergency room, like many other families would get diagnosed in the emergency room. And then the train takes off. Like it's quick after that. You're in the
Wow.
emergency room, then you get admitted. The
Right.
next day you're starting chemo.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
That must have been like a whirlwind.
It was a total whirlwind, but then you go into fight or flight.
Right.
And you live in fight or flight the entire time. And many of us don't get out of fight or flight.
I can
Um,
imagine. I mean, as a mom, I mean, just picturing me being there. And then, of course, they can't take care of themselves. They can't do, you wish you
right.
can take the pain for them. I mean, how did you handle? What was your coping mechanism?
I did not have any coping mechanisms. I was in do mode. I didn't sleep. I wasn't eating
Right.
properly. I pretty much ate cookies. That's all I ate was cookies because I just didn't have an appetite for anything else, and I didn't want to eat hospital food.
Right.
So it was like takeout, 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 and lots of cookies, and not a lot of sleeping. And your body just takes care of you in a
Right.
crisis like that. It does. And it wasn't until we got home
Right.
and then at like another 6 months before I started to not feel well.
Well, right. So
And
that body, like you said, we go into that fight or flight. It will hold you up until you're able to, and when it feels safe enough, then it will
you
totally get
got
it.
it. You
Totally get
got it. Exactly. And by the way, I spend a lot of time talking to newly diagnosed families, right, through the
right.
charity. And they almost all say the same thing, like, I can't do this.
Right.
I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. And I say, you're already doing it.
Right.
You're literally doing it right now. And you don't have any choice.
Right.
You're going to get up tomorrow and you're going to go through rounds and you're going to ask the doctors questions. You're going to make sure your child's comfortable,
Right.
and you're just going to keep doing it until you don't have to do it anymore.
And I mean, I can understand, like you said, you're going to fight or flight, but how did you find that strength? You are dealing with it. You got your, 7 month old, I mean, brand new baby, literally. And then you're here also trying to comfort others.
Mm-hmm.
How, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And how's your
Thank you.
son doing? I mean, how did that turn out for you?
So he's 16 now. He's going for his license test on
Oh
Saturday, so
wow,
we'll see.
wow. That
Yeah,
must be
they gave him a
exciting.
50-50. Yeah, they gave him a 50-50 shot. He'd make it 6 months.
Oh wow. And
Yeah,
he's 16.
I
That's
know
like,
he's
yeah. Oh
16.
wow.
And I
That's
tell
something.
families that, I tell families all the time, like statistics are great. They are. We need them to create protocols and to write
Right.
chemo regimens, but statistics are beat all the time.
Right.
Miracles happen.
Miracles happen. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's in fact 16 years later. I mean, going for his license, that must be exciting. And you as a mom, just thinking back, I mean, because we do reflect and it's like, oh wow, can you imagine, there you were and here you go. Because it's a milestone going for his license. Now he's, getting ready to get out there in the world driving of all. And how did that experience shape how you parent though?
That's a great question, actually. It's evolved. At first, I parented from a place of fear,
Right.
right? And I did that not only because of Nicholas,
Right.
but a lot of my fear came from childhood.
Right.
And then after Nicholas, my niece was born and subsequently died 16 months later.
Wow.
And so I talk a lot about that whole story in the book, but and so I was convinced, honestly, that bad things happened to my family
Right.
and that I was just waiting for the next bad thing.
Right.
So I had two daughters after that. And so, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I was in the pediatrician's office with them. Something's wrong, something's wrong, something's
Right.
wrong. And
Right.
then finally, the pediatrician sat me down. He was like, "You have chronic PTSD and you need to get help." And I was like, "Huh?" Wait, what? So, but yeah, so then once I started to take care of myself
Right.
and I really started to, go to therapy and work on my anxiety and my spirituality and learning to calm my nervous system down, I
Right.
was able to see my triggers in
Right.
the world, right? Which
Uh-huh.
could be a fever,
Right.
right? For
Right.
us, like fevers are bad in the
Right.
cancer world. So my daughter ended up getting pneumonia. She
Right.
presented exactly like Nicholas did,
Right.
right? So I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. But you learn what your triggers are. So then you learn to cope with that. Like
Right.
you can learn to work through your cognitive distortions. Like, well, do we know this is really leukemia again?
Right.
We don't.
Right.
So likely you're coming from a place of fear.
Right.
Let's try to be in the present moment. We'll go to the pediatricians. If he wants us to go to the hospital, we will, and trying to just breathe and stay in the present moment. But and now I'm knee deep in my healing, actually waist deep in my healing, and my children are older. So I
Right.
can have conversations with them,
Right.
right? I can say, oh my gosh, I'm really sorry that I just blew up at you. What just happened caused me to have like really bad anxiety and I lost control. So I
Right.
talk with my kids now a lot about everything that I'm working through,
Right.
um, which is a gift I think for them, rather than just having a mom who's short fused and
Right.
snippy all the time. You know what I
All the
mean?
time. Right. Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And and with that said, how are you, or what are some of the things you do now to help sustain your mental health and your wellness?
Hmm. It's
Mm.
an everyday project.
Right.
It's every day. So it's non-negotiable. I have to meditate every
Right.
morning. I love to meditate in the afternoon. 90% of the time I accomplish that. But like you, soccer practice, all that other stuff
Right.
happening. So it's not always an opportunity, but non-negotiable in the morning. I exercise at least 5 days a week. I'm in therapy. Won't give up on that. And I do a lot of journaling. I
Okay.
talk about my journaling techniques in my book, but I do a lot of inner child journaling.
Right.
And I know when I have been triggered because I can feel it in my body.
Right.
And I feel like the meditation practice gives me the connection to my body. So I know when my body's off
When
balance.
something is off. Right.
I know exactly. And I will put pen to paper. And the way that I journal, I don't keep my journals. So they're very, very, very honest.
Right.
And I mean, it can literally be like, dear F you, so and
Right.
so.
Right. So that's your way of kind of letting it out and just giving yourself
Yes.
that room to,
Yep. And
and I
then I
can
burn
understand.
it, toss it.
And I can understand what you say when, when you said, going through now you're so in tune with your body, because sometimes it does take us get into that edge and back. Just to share a little bit about myself, I have been to the edge and back. And I talk about that, and that's one of the things that has actually turned around how I approach my wellness. I used to be that people pleaser, do
Uh-huh.
everything, go, 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 go. And I ended up in ICU, like this very healthy person in ICU. Doctors can't figure out what's wrong with me. And, I kept complaining about being lightheaded when I get up. They're asking me, do you have high blood pressure? And I'm like, no, but I get lightheaded when I get up. And just by accident, they was like, okay, let's see what's going on. Realized I had this thing that they only NASA study. And they're like, okay, we can't figure out what's going on. Ended up in ICU, no medication, nothing. They just can't figure out what was going on. I was just like stress, running here, running there, pleasing everyone and putting ourselves last. And that's what we do as women, as moms, we are the doctor, we are the healer, we're wife, we're so many things, and we have a tendency of just putting our own wellness. So when you said, non-negotiable, that's a good thing, and not feeling guilty about it. Because sometimes, I there was a time I feel like, okay, if I take time, and there's a lot of moms, I'm sure, that even mom that you work with too, that feels, if I take time for myself, I
Mhm.
feel guilty because I'm not doing what I need to do for the kids. Or
Yeah,
if I'm doing
100%.
something out of passion for myself,
Mhm.
then that's time away from my family. Speak
Mhm.
to that, and what do you have to say as it relates to having that mom guilt or that wife guilt or whatever that is?
Well, I mean, it's like the old saying, right? You can't be a good mom if your tank is empty. You
Right,
can't be a good wife if your tank is empty. And
right,
everybody knows that on paper,
right,
but integrating that into your life is hard. And so I always see my clients come to me in one or two ways. One, they're sick,
right,
like you described. I have all these issues, but nobody can figure out what's wrong with me. Or they're lost.
right,
I'm unhappy. I mean, I love my husband, but I don't even know if I'm in love with him anymore. And I just feel like I don't have a life's purpose and I'm just lost,
you lose that
right?
that purpose. Yeah, you don't know what you because you're busy doing for everyone but yourself.
Yes, exactly. And that's it, right? So we all have a purpose, clearly. And the goal is to integrate our parts. Like,
Right,
who's Ashley? Who's Nicole?
right,
Right? What does Nicole want? And
right,
that's not an ego question. That's
right,
a soul question,
right,
right? And so meditation is you should become, for my clients, a non-negotiable as well,
right,
and really getting to know themselves. And that takes time because they, like you said, they're untrained to even think about themselves.
right,
So like sometimes when I say like, well, if you had to answer the question today about what you want, like, you know, no one's gonna hold you to it, but like, what do you want? They look at me like, huh?
there in headlights, right?
Deer in the headlights, dude. Yeah, exactly. So, it's like it's a really, really common. And so people find their way. They do. And it's possible for everybody. And it's going to take a little elbow grease, a little work. It's not
Right,
just going to be like, oh, bum, I want to be happier. So I'm just going to think happy thoughts. Like that doesn't work. You have to work at it and you have to like untangle your past, figure out who you are, figure out really what and truly you want,
Right.
and then take action.
And with that said, what are like two key resources that you recommend for your clients when it comes to helping them start that healing process?
There are so many ways to heal. And there
Right.
are so many self help books, classes, people, gurus. I share in my book a lot of modalities that I used,
Right.
and I encourage people to get out there, read a couple books, go to a couple healers, try Reiki, try body work, try yoga, try meditation, try journaling. You have to find what resonates with you,
Right.
because the reality is that all of these professionals, these healers, etc., they are vibrating at a certain frequency,
Right.
and you are vibrating at a certain frequency. So
Right.
you have to find somebody at your frequency or a slightly higher. But if you
Right.
are far away, either
Right.
they're below you or you're below them, it's not going to feel right.
Right.
And you should never force yourself to do anything that doesn't feel
Right.
right.
Right. Definitely
Right.
like that. And what keeps you inspired on even your most challenging days? I mean, we're all human, and like you said, there are
Mhm.
days when things are going to be off. What keeps you motivated? On those days where I feel like I don't want to get out of bed, because we all get them. Especially, you're an entrepreneur, you got kids, and some days it's like, oh, I just want to not be an adult today.
Totally. Yeah. My inspiration is my children, to be honest with you. Right? It's I want to become a healthier
Right.
woman, right? Mind, body, spirit for my children.
Right.
I think I was put on this earth to change ancestral patterns.
Right.
And so I take that job seriously. Now that I'm pretty sure I figured that out, that I take it seriously. So I don't give up on myself, right?
Right.
Trauma victims, we're trained to give up on ourselves
Right.
because nobody showed up for us.
Right.
So it's always, that's why we become people pleasers, right? We're trying to plug into everybody else to make them happy, because if they're happy, we're safe.
Right.
But meanwhile, during that whole thing, we're abandoning ourselves. So I vowed pretty early on into this process, which is, again, waist deep 2 years ago, that I wouldn't abandon myself. So
Right.
I have like little sticky notes. I have them. I took them off for this video because I didn't know if you're going to be able to see my computer
Right.
laptop, but I have sticky notes all over my house, little notes to myself.
Right.
And so I just keep the conversation going with
Right.
myself, and know that, you don't have to do the work every day,
Right.
but you got to keep the conversation going, because some days you're right, you just need to rest.
Right. Right.
And then some days you got to keep doing the work.
Definitely. That's cool. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you deal with other entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, mom who are also, whether they're navigating growing a family and growing a career, whether that be as a business owner or whether that be in the corporate field. What one piece of advice do you have for them, especially with the fact that a lot of times, that, life, takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of confidence and guts to, even, you know, we do it, and I think women can succeed at anything we do, but it does take a lot of confidence and guts, especially sometimes when you have the naysayers and you may not have the support. What one advice do you have for someone building family and trying to build career?
Mm. I think for me, what was helpful was to, again, start that communication with my authentic self, my
Right.
soul.
Right.
Because when you're driven by your soul,
Right.
everything falls into place.
Right.
It really does. It doesn't feel like work. You will hit less roadblocks. When the naysayers show up, it won't even matter to you, because you're like, you
Right.
don't seem to understand. This is just something I gotta do.
Right.
And so again, those questions are like, who am I? What do I want? What is my life's purpose? I ask myself those questions every day when I meditate, and I
Right.
don't answer them. I'm just posing them as seeds for my soul to show up for me. And
Right.
we know, as women, we have strong intuition.
Oh, we
We
do.
know, we know when it's right, and when it feels right, when you can feel it in your gut or you can feel it in your heart,
Right.
move over, right? Because
Right.
I'm just on a mission. But if
Right.
we're forcing something, right? If we're forcing it because we want to be successful
Right.
for somebody else, maybe to feel
Right.
approval or to be loved, but when we're doing something that is for our soul and our purpose, it just, like I said, nothing else matters. So find out what your authentic self wants and be authentic to yourself. Keep
Right.
asking, keep that conversation with yourself. Does this feel good? If it doesn't feel good, we need to drop that and move on to something else.
Well, definitely, I like that. And what as motherhood taught you about owning your power? I like to ask moms that
That
question.
Yeah, I mean, I learned. I was always pretty vocal, and then I became a mom, and then Nicholas got sick, so I found my power in a huge way when we were in the hospital. I had to advocate for him,
Right.
right? I had to tell the doctors like, you're making a mistake right now. This isn't what you said we were going to do 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Or the nurses, where if they dropped a cap or something and they were going to try to,
Right.
contaminate him in some way.
Right.
So I learned very quickly to tap into that internal mom power,
Right.
and to use my voice for him. But again, I've always really had that. I've always been driven by power.
Power.
And my advice is to keep your chakras balanced, keep your energy flowing, because when our power gets out of balance,
Right.
that can be not good for us.
Okay.
So, I think it's important to tap into it. If you find that you're a woman who isn't in touch with your power,
Right.
that can be healed. That can, there's clearly a blockage there, an energetic blockage
Uh-huh.
that can be healed through healings, journaling, etc. Because it's there. That power is there for all of us. It's
Right.
there.
Definitely. All right. And we when you strip away mom, career, all that bells and whistles of everything, who is Ashley underneath it all?
Oh, I think I'm just an energetic being.
Mhm.
Right? Like I resonate when I'm outside and
Right.
I'm at the beach or I'm near trees or
Right.
animals, like I feel like in vibration with them.
Right.
So that energetic presence is there
Right.
all the time, but
Okay.
as it is for all of us, and the outer world that we plug into of all those labels that you just
Right.
mentioned, it kind of dampens that energetic portion of all of us. So if you stripped it all away, I swear, girlfriend, I'd be shining so bright people would need sunglasses.
I love it. I love it. Okay. And one priceless advice that you've been given that you think was absolutely necessary and priceless that you want to share with others that was passed on to you. It was you felt it was priceless, it was necessary, and you feel like that's something you definitely want to pass on to someone else.
Oh, that's really interesting. Um, I think it would be slow down,
Right. Slow.
right? Like everything doesn't have to be done today.
Right.
You're still good if you don't accomplish everything on your list today. You're still good if you don't just, have to check another thing off of your bucket list
Right.
to be successful. So, just slow down and be present, right?
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
have a tendency to run. I literally, my employee said to me today, "You walk so fast," and I was like, "I gotta go. I got places to be. Come on, speed it up." But
I think
I
I
need
think
to
we're two
slow.
peas in a pod because that's me. I'm always going energetic and stuff. So and because I know that's me and going through the things that I've gone through, and I'm sure it's the same with you, you listen to your body more. When it's time, you work hard, but then when it's time to rest, it's like I'm shutting it all down. I don't care who wanna
100%.
call. I am not picking the phone up. I'm gonna be on the couch. My older daughter, because I do have a 25-year-old daughter also, and she'll go, "Why are you just laying on the couch?" I said, "Because I am just vegging and I'm not doing anything. If you're going to cook, you're going to go cook. You're going to, but I gotten to the point where, and this year, of course, my thing is to be even more present and allow myself grace so I can drop the ball a
Oh,
little bit more."
Praise God.
Yep.
Yes. We need permission to
Right.
slow down.
And that permission, I think, comes from ourselves, not from everyone else, because if we have to wait
100%.
for it, it doesn't happen. Awesome. Okay. And I'm going to ask you this. Your 21-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Oh boy. I would say stop worrying so much about what people think of you
Right. I think
and
that's an
stop,
awesome.
yeah, and stop plugging into them to find your safety.
Oh, wow. I think that's an awesome advice. I think so much of our youth today worry so much about what other people think. And I think I was at a point where I too worried. And now I'm like, I don't care, not to say it doesn't matter, but
Mhm.
you kind of, and I think for me, I'm like, yeah, that's growth. I think, growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And 3 traits that have gotten you to where you are today. 3 traits.
Not being afraid of hearing no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Making sure that I'm passionate about the projects that I'm doing and
Right.
participating in,
Uh-huh.
and self-care.
Love those 3. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a couple quick lightning round questions. I'm just gonna shoot it off, and the first thing that comes to mind. Favorite
Okay.
compliment.
Say it again.
Favorite compliment.
I love your eyes.
Guilty pleasure.
Chocolate.
Power outfit.
Okay. Power outfit. Jeans and heels.
Would you rather spend or save?
Spend.
Awesome. Okay, so I know we have your book out. I want you to go ahead and tell us how we can get a copy of the book. Tell us what's next, and of course, how our audience can reach you, where they can find you.
Yeah, so we can buy The Unspoken on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, the usual book places.
Uh-huh.
And I am Ashley Has Love on Instagram,
Okay.
Ashley Haseotes on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And if they were interested in the charity, depending on where they live, we're a New
Yeah.
England charity. It's onemission.org. So the word one
Uh-huh.
mission.org. And that was it, right? What else was I supposed to tell you?
Yeah, social media, website, what's
Yep.
next?
Website for me is just my name, ashleyhaseotes.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you for coming on and sharing yourself with us. Thank you for pulling up the seat and sharing your story in an effort to help our audience cultivate confidence, overcome fear, and of course, define their own success on their own terms.
Thank you
It
for
was a
having
pleasure
me.
having you. I will definitely drop the links to Ashley's website, the book, and stuff for anyone to be able to locate. Okay. All right. Thank you,
Thank you so
Ashley.
much.
Okay.